You know, it's kind of funny that I had this digital voice recorder with me all day and I didn't use it the way I was planning to, so go figure. But I thought I'd come on here and do something I haven't done in a while. And it's what I call a work vlog. And basically what a work vlog is, for a lot of people that want to know, is basically it's a blog or video, audio blog, whatever, where you just talk about work and what's been going on and what's on your mind and stuff. And I can tell you with my job, things change at a rapid pace. Sometimes they change at such a rapid pace, you don't know exactly what's going to happen next. It's so unpredictable. And some might say that's a good thing, and some would say that's a bad thing. Well, depending on how you look at it, it's either or. That's about it. It's either or. Depending on how you look at it, it's either or. It's either unpredictable or it's predictable. Either it's a good thing or it's a bad thing. I guess in a way it really doesn't matter. Like I said, depending on how you look at it, it doesn't really matter either or. Sometimes it does matter because it's like, seriously, just when you think you know what's going to happen, something else happens. I'll give you an excuse me. I'll give you an example. At any job, sometimes companies, if not the stores themselves, in that region or not in that region, are desperate. They are desperate for leadership. They are desperate for leadership. They are desperate for people to take charge, even though the people may not be ready for it. I mean, true, those people may have the experience by working elsewhere, but they don't have the experience when it comes to leading or managing, something else. And that's the one thing about these kind of jobs. Sometimes you'll want a certain like I was saying, I just put a cough drop in my mouth. You'll want a certain person that you feel can handle it, even though maybe they've handled it before prior, in a prior job. They've never handled it in this kind of job, in this kind of environment. You know what I'm saying? And in today's world, that's exactly what's going on with all these big retail giants, either physically or online. They get so desperate for people to take charge, even if it's for an hourly position, that they don't understand, hey, this person might have been a manager or might have been a leader elsewhere, but that doesn't mean he can be a leader here in this position. And that's kind of what's happening at my job. I'm not going to say much, but there are moments so far that throughout my job and any other store under my overall company's name that goes through this. And what really bothers me, and I'm sure they understand this, because I can tell. I've been there long enough. I'm going on 4.5 years. I've been there long enough to know that if something's bothering the associates, you could also tell it's bothering those above them. Especially when those above them take someone that's just been hired and probably does have experience elsewhere, the leader, and start training them to take up that leadership position. Now, like my mom would always say, God has a reason for things happening. And God has to have a reason for certain things happening at my job, for certain individuals all throughout, day and night. Every store within this company, God has to have a reason why certain new individuals get the opportunities they get so soon, or get the opportunities that they get so soon, while others have been working a lot longer at that job and at that store and for that company than they have. So there's no doubt in my heart and in my mind that our managers are bothered by what they have to do sometimes, because they see men and women throughout that have been there longer, that know a little bit more, or that know a little bit more than those that are being trained. And there's no doubt that they probably think, you know what, I should give this person an opportunity. I should give them the ball and let them run with it. But as much as they want to do that, the sad reality is they can't really do that. Sad reality is they can't really do that because they got to follow regulations. They got to follow rules. And the rules and regulations are, if you're going to make someone a leader of any kind, then they have to have experience. So a lot of us may not like it. Heck, even those that get put into that position may not like it. But God has a reason for things happening the way they do. And maybe it's God's way, and I truly believe this, of opening doors within that company, within any company you work for, within any company you work for you as an individual, an associate, an employee, to walk through and gain better experience. I look at it this way. It's opening a door for me to possibly pursue being part of the Homelines Department, Domestics Department, if you will. Not only because there's someone there that wants me to be a part of the team, because they see that, hey, not only am I a nice guy, an overall around good guy, but I'm always there and I'm always willing to help. So if certain things happening up front are happening for a reason, it's God, in my opinion, it's God's way of slowly opening that door for me to go through, to probably go work in Homelines, go work in electronics. Heck, maybe even get a shot at being a support manager, as they call it, but we don't know. Heck, my goal is not just to go into the Homelines domestic area, try my abilities there, but I've also had a goal to be a backup leader. You see, the thing is with me, I've been a leader in the past. I used to work for a certain fast food restaurant that is the rival of a certain fast food restaurant with an arc, with a double arc, if you know what I mean. I used to work for that rival company, and guess what? Within time, it slowly took time, but within time, I was an opening leader. I was an opening manager for the breakfast into lunch hour. I was even told by the store manager of a trip I could have gone on at one time, but I didn't, because it was for managers. And then on top of that, somehow, some way, my breakfast opening managing position transitioned into a shift manager position. I went from what's known as from a different color uniform, I don't want to say what color it was because it's similar to what we have at my job. But I went from trying to think. I went from a orange uniform to a turquoise uniform. Yeah. I went from orange to turquoise. The orange being, kind of when I started, just regular employee and all that, crew member. Turquoise being opening manager, breakfast manager, and then from turquoise to purple, to dark purple as a shift manager. And the reason I changed up the color schemes there is because, like I said, they're very similar to what the color schemes at my job are right now. But the point is, I was given an opportunity to run with the ball, to be given the ball and run with it. Did I succeed? For a while, I was okay. But, of course, in time, things happened for a reason, and I ended up being back to a crew member, and then I was let go for reasons. There were reasons, and I'm not going to get into any more of what those were. But the point is, I've had that experience. And there are times now where I work where pretty much I've been noted as having that leadership ability. The only problem is I've not been given the ball and been allowed to run with it. Maybe someday I will. And you know what? I feel that day is going to come soon. But like I said, God has a reason for things happening, and if God has a reason for these certain new people being put into positions they're going to be put in or have been put in, then so be it. But I'll give you a good example of what I'm talking about by the fact that you can kind of tell that there's in my opinion, a bit of like regretness of what they have to do, of putting these new people in these positions, even though these new people just, recently started like a couple of months prior, and now they're in a position of where now they either have to be there when the facility opens or be there when the facility closes. And like I said, I'll give you an example. There have been several times throughout the history of my job, where I'm currently at, where the person that they recently hire and now they put into this position of leadership, when they have to be there, when they're scheduled to be there when the facility closes, they have to actually have some additional help because they're basically not ready. They're not fully prepared. And again, this is where you could tell, in a sense, the people that are charged with training and training these people into these new people into these positions are not too keen on the idea either, because they basically feel, hey, their strengths still lie within somewhere else, or you know what, maybe we should let these people continue doing the job they were hired on to do, and not, suddenly push them into this position because they have this experience. Now, I'm not saying that maybe they didn't, apply for the position. I'm not saying that. If they did, then maybe these were the necessary steps. I don't know. But we'll have to wait and see. But again, God has a reason. And, so far I will admit the choices have been okay. They're learning still. They're basically doing OJT, on the job, OJT, on the job training, or OTGT, or something like that, whatever you call it, on the job training. They're still doing that. Well, even while they're in the positions they're in. And you know what, maybe that might work. It might be a good thing for them in the end. But that's not the only crazy change that's been going on. Here's another crazy change. We all depend on the computers and the internets and all that to help us out, to do things, to research, to complete assignments for college, homework, whatever, and that's great. Problem, though, is this. The one thing, unless you really are fully prepared to go this route, the one thing you don't do with a computer, unless you really have it programmed exactly the way it should be programmed, is you don't have them do your schedule. You don't have a computer scheduling you the way it's going to. Those that should be doing the scheduling are those that you and your boss and your front-end bosses report to, and that is your assistants. That is your assistant managers. They should be the ones that do the scheduling and then leave it at that. Some people, some people might say, well, the computers kind of make it easier and faster. Yeah, except they're doing something that's weird at times. You know what's weird about the computer scheduling? The fact that now some of the hours might still stay the same and nothing will really change much. It'll be like, oh, nothing's really changed. And there have been some good examples. But also recently and upcoming, there have been and will be examples of that not really working out right. I'll tell you, here's what I mean. This past week, I had an 8-hour shift. And during that 8-hour shift, of course, I get an hour lunch. Well, that hour lunch actually came 3 hours after I clocked in. And it's, by law, you're supposed to go 4 hours at least. 5 hours at the latest. 5 hours at the latest if you're busy or something. But 4 hours, which is 4 hours basically on the dot. Or 4.5, maybe at the least latest, and 5th hour at the latest. But the point is, this computer scheduled my lunch for 11:30 to 12:30 on an 8-hour day. Doesn't make sense. It's even scheduled one guy that comes in at 9 to go to break at 9:45 or 10 o'clock. And it's like, really? So it doesn't know that it's supposed to go a certain way? It's not programmed like that yet? And then if that's crazy, upcoming schedules have people like me working 5.25 hours one day. In other words, 5 hours and 25 minutes. Or 5 hours, 75 minutes. Really? You couldn't round it out to, 5.5, 6 hours, 5 hours? Doesn't make sense. And the thing is, what's funny is I'm not the only one that's complaining about this. I'm not the only employee and associate complaining about this. Everybody else, from other associates and employees to managers themselves, are complaining. They are not happy. Because it's like, really? You're going to go? It's like, really? This is what they're going to schedule us like now? That don't make sense. And here's the thing. They will try to work around it and say, you know what? Just go at the time you know you're supposed to go to lunch and be done with it. But now it looks like maybe that's not going to be the case because recently I had to go to lunch at a time that didn't make any sense. You see, on a 7-hour day, I go to lunch at 12 o'clock, 12:30 at times, like today. But the other day I went at 11:30, and usually you would think, okay, just wait till 12 or something like that. You'll be okay. Nope, they set me at 11:30. Again, what sense does that make? It doesn't make any. And then when I look at the upcoming schedules that me and others might have, and others in my position or elsewhere might have, like I said, they have us working days that are either 5 hours 25 minutes or 5 hours 75 minutes, and they give us our lunches. And it's like, really? It's like, okay, that's nice, but usually if you're doing a 5-hour day or 5.5-hour day, you're usually supposed to get only a half-hour lunch because that's by accordance of law. But if they want to give us an hour, then fine. I don't have a problem with it because you know what? It's not really on me. It's on the people, on the company, on the region that decided to let computers do the scheduling. And you know what? Here's the thing. I will admit, they're just starting out with this whole new system, and sometimes it takes a while for bugs to get worked out and programs to really get in tune with what they're supposed to do. So hopefully in time, things will be programmed the way they're supposed to, and the schedules will be back on schedule, if you catch my drift. Hopefully. But besides those two things, the other thing that's been going on lately at my job, and it's really going to pick up a lot now that school's getting out, is kids coming in and turning our store into a mall. I mean, seriously, that's what they do. I joke around and I say, yeah, we call Walmart Wall Mall, especially every other Wednesday when kids get out early. I mean, last Wednesday, kids got out early because that's how it's scheduled. I don't know what it's going to be scheduled this upcoming Wednesday because obviously this is the last Wednesday, I believe, before school is out. So they might keep them regular or they might let them out early. I don't know. But these are times where they turn Walmart into Wall Mall. And again, you can kind of tell school's getting let out earlier in certain areas because what's funny is I went to work today, and basically I started seeing a lot of groups of kids and I'm thinking, what, is school out already? I guess so, I don't know. But it was weird. And you could tell something's going on too with school, especially with school getting out, because of the fact that people were buying up a lot of stuff today. And it's like, really? This is kind of surprising. It's like they were buying up a lot of barbecue stuff. They were buying up a lot of alcohol. And it's like, wonder what the occasion is. I mean, I know it's going to be a nice weekend, but is there something more? We don't know. Thing is, though, the one thing I will give credit, at least the schools are taking initiative. They are at least sending out school security on these little golf carts to drive around and make sure the kids aren't causing trouble. Only thing is I wish they would come into the stores and make sure of that as well. You know why? Kids will come in there, and this is mostly teens as well, and they will ride little tricycles, bounce the basketballs, at times even still when they feel ornery, they will ride the skateboards in there. And on top of that, they'll even go into the bakery, take a bite of a roll, a few bites of a roll or a donut or whatever, then leave what's left, what they don't finish, just lying around. They'll drink a bottle of Gatorade or a bottle of Coke or something like that, leave it around, and then leave. Because the kids don't have respect. So I hope and pray that when we get into the next school year, starting this August, that our measures taken, not just by the region, not just by my company's region, but by the school district in general, to make sure this doesn't happen ever again. Because if the kids are going to come out in there after a short day, fine, no problem. Don't come in there and disrespect us and what we do. And one last thing. I've noticed that lately we've been getting a lot of unusual people. Sometimes people being impatient, frustrated. Well, first of all, I want to thank a lot of the customers that we deal with for having patience and understanding of what we're going through. I thank you for that. But here's the thing. There is a lot of us that are not happy, that are ticked, and it comes from associates to managers all around, that are sick and tired of the rudeness we have to deal with. We get some people are impatient, we get some people expect quick service, but guess what? We're not robots. We're not like, how can we serve you, ma'am? Let me do this for you quickly. Beep, 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 done. No, we're not like that. We are human beings. We are flesh and blood. You know, if there's a line coming out of customer service, or out of vision, or out of the deli, or out of bakery, understand that we are doing what we can. And that sometimes the people ahead of you are the cause of the trouble. Because sometimes the people ahead of you want to do whatever they can to get some extra money. They would do whatever they can to get extra money. There have been several times that I and many others that have worked behind customer service will tolerate those that will say, we were returning this. Where's your receipt? Oh, we don't have it. They will argue, and even though we could put in the UPC code and it won't show up, and they say, we got it here, we got it there. Look, even as much as we want to argue and say, this isn't from here. Well, not as much as we would like to argue, but as much as we would like to tell them, hey, sir, ma'am, this isn't from here. we can't take this, we can't return this, da da da. There are people that will argue. There are people that will argue, and they will say, and they will cause a scene. So to the point that we will have to have one of our managers come up and allow them to make the return, even though the assistant manager also knows that it's BS as well. I mean, heck, I'll give you an example of something that was kind of ironic, even though it seemed suspicious, but it was in the system. A girl brings in a set of earrings. She says a piece is missing. She gives me the receipt. You know where the receipt was from? Mobile, Alabama Walmart. Yeah, a Walmart in Mobile, Alabama. So it's in the system. I refund her. I let the lady in jewelry know about this, and she's like, huh? She can't believe it. She says, I got to see this. And basically, she comes to the conclusion, along with everybody else that I mentioned this to, that this girl kind of probably either lost the piece like she said she did, or she removed the piece and we wanted to return these just to get extra money. And that's another thing too. I get people need extra money here and there. You're not always going to get that extra money that you want unless you have evidence of unless you have visual evidence of a receipt, unless your item does match up to what our company sells, or you have the reference numbers and stuff to receive cash through the Walmart to Walmart, or Walmart to World, or Target to Target, Kmart to Kmart, whatever systems that allow you to do it. But then here's another thing, and I say this with all due respect and no offense. I say this with all due respect, God. I'd say this looking at a picture of you right now, Lord, riding on your white stallion. I say this with no offense, God, and I say this with no disrespect. But and again, I say this with no offense and no disrespect because I know my company is not the only company that deals with this. But there has to be an understanding of how things work. There has to be an understanding between cultures of how things work. I know some people of different cultures go to every store from Target to Walmart to Kmart to Kohl's, wherever, and they have a straight understanding of how things work. But then there are those that will come in and they don't completely have a straight understanding of how things work, and they think that this is how things go or that's how things go. I can recall back when I first started, there was this one lady that would come in and she would always tell me, oh, I get this for $9.99 or $9.99. Basically telling me she gets it for $10 all the time. It was a cultural misunderstanding, or she was used to shopping at a different store where she would usually get the bargain she wants. I don't know. But there has to be a cultural understanding of how things go. And what I mean by that, with all due respect and no offense, is families need to sit down with their relatives if the relatives are coming from another country, and they have to let them know that this is how things work here so that they won't be so confused. Because that's what I see sometimes, is confusion. Thank God it's not all the time, but there are times, especially around this time of year, where that happens. I'll give you an example. I walk into the store today to start work. I'm getting sent outside to do carts because apparently the computer decides to schedule a cart pusher at 10 instead of 8:30. And what happens? One of the first things I see is a customer of a different culture coming in with a propane tank, empty that is, and not understanding right off the bat that he has to keep that propane tank outside, all because someone didn't communicate to him beforehand that, hey, when you go do this, you're going to have to keep your propane tank outside, whether it's empty or it's not. Someone didn't explain to him the difference, explain that that's how things work, because there is that cultural difference, and with all due respect, I can understand that. I mean, there's no doubt that there would be a cultural difference if I went into another country and tried to do things the way I know how, but then find out, oh, that's not how things are done here. This is how they're done. So my thing is, folks, is There's got to be a cultural understanding. And I pray and hope, and just like everybody at any retail job and retail company prays and hopes, that someday that cultural understanding will come to be. I really do. And I understand there is a lot of other smaller businesses, smaller stores out there that do things a certain way, and people get so used to it that they think every other store out there works the same way, but they don't. So, hopefully, Lord, if you're listening, hopefully you can provide a miracle and there will be a cultural understanding down the line so that any store, retail or not, doesn't have to go through some of the trouble that each and every one of them goes through. And that's really about it, folks. I just had to get a lot of this off my chest with this work vlog. But yeah, thought I'd come on here and just say what's on my mind, and let me know what you guys think. I mean, I know a lot of you that listen to what I say, subscribe to my channel. I know a lot of you have jobs as well, and you guys work in retail, you work in similar jobs or even higher jobs. Hopefully you understand where I'm coming from with a lot of this. And I say a lot of this with no disrespect and no offense. I say it with all the respect in the world. I say it with no disrespect and no offense. So, let me know what you guys think down below. Comment if you like. I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. If you've had similar experiences. And hopefully you've taken your time listening to this. And I'll talk to y'all later. God bless. Take care.